I have a pleasure of having Ajay Bhatt. Everybody know
Hello.
Ajay Bhatt is the president of Global Human Resource Intas Pharmaceuticals. Ajay has more than 3 decades of experience in this pharmaceutical industry, both working in multinational companies as well as Indian MNCs. He has worked extensively with Intas, Abbott, Torrent, Zydus, and Sun Pharma. He has a global HR leadership experience in driving change, acceleration and integration of large, complex, and fast-growing organizations. He has expertise in developing and delivering change management, and this is what exactly we are facing at this moment. I don't know this momentary or a long consequence change thanks to COVID-19. He has expertise further in strategic employee relationship management. I am aware about his role in employee relationship and some solving some IR issue in Chandigarh and Punjab, which was pending for a long years. He is one of the leading HR executives in India, Europe, and US, and of course in emerging markets in Intas. He's known for 3 attributes as per as his friends and colleagues who says that he drive business performance, his ability to translate the broad business challenge into actionable steps with measurable performance outcomes, and third, his passions for developing individuals within the organization to achieve their full potential. That's the ultimate human resource objective. He has been awarded with so many awards in his career, like Global HR Team of the Year, HR Professional of the Year, Best Human Resource Professionals in 16-17, and about Global HR Team of the Year in 2012. I welcome Mr. Ajay Bhatt to this session called Life After Lockdown, and we will discuss more going forward in how to equip our leadership team in pharmaceutical industry and other life science company industry to face this challenge which came suddenly in this us. The next speaker, we have a pleasure of my very long time friend, Professor R. Ravi Kumar. Professor R. Ravi Kumar is a former professor in organization behavior and human resource management in IIM Bangalore. He has 40 years of rich teaching and consulting experience. He has co-authored the book Organization Growth and Success, a case research studies, and this book is getting taught in so many business schools, including all the IIMs. When he was chairman in IIMB for placement, his achievement was documented and actually aired in CNBC and BBC. He was also featured in BBC for his work in gender diversity in 1999. His collaborative work shaping business leader, what business school don't teach you, don't do, was something to read by all of us. He has been on several journals editorial board, which includes international journals of leadership education in UK. His international academic engagement includes Barcelona visit and the Sultan Qaboos University, Muscat. Dr. Kumar held consulting assignment with many government, public and private sector organizations, including multinational companies in India. Have been recipient of fellowship from European Foundation of Management Development and Association of Management Development in South Asia. I have a personal fortune to work with him in a very interesting project called Continuing Professional Development for Medical Doctors. And multiple years he has trained medical doctors on medical leadership. Actually, most of you here is from pharmaceutical and healthcare background. You know RSSDI, the Research Society of Diabetes in India, the diabetes conference. In Noida conference was started with a workshop by Professor Kumar. He is liked a lot among the doctors community with his interesting deliberation on leadership and organization behavior talk. So welcome Dr. Kumar to this channel called Life After Lockdown, which is dedicated to discuss different topics concerned with professionals working in pharmaceutical industry as well as the life science companies, including healthcare industry. With this, let us start the session, and I'm starting with the audience. So I have a questions for the audience. There is a poll. I'm starting the poll and requesting every participants to participate, give your response. What among the following is the most dominant leadership challenge you have been facing at this moment, last 3 months in particular? So you can see below the videos down there is a button to respond the poll. I see response is coming up. All answer, there is no right and wrong answer. Only thing is I'm asking the what is the most dominating uh, issues you are facing right now while dealing with the team and business in last 3 months in particular. So I see response is coming. I wait for a few seconds more, and then I will publish the data. So it comes like that: meeting monthly or quarterly sales targets is something is bothering the most to the leaders of pharmaceutical industry. Of course, high attrition comes as second point, and keeping team motivated is another point. I think Professor Kumar will help us to drive that part also. Keeping self motivated, I think this is good to note that uh, nobody has opted for keeping self motivated as an option, as a challenge. It means that the senior leadership joined here today is well equipped for self motivation. You are very much motivated, engaged with the vision of the company you are working with. That's the great to note that. With this, we come to the panelists. I will ask a couple of questions to the panelists and request to uh, share your perspective on those area. So, starting with Ajay Bhatt. Mr. Ajay, you have a seasoned professionals in this industry, more than 30 years working in different pharmaceutical industry. I don't know any situation came like that, which we are in facing right now. The core job, the work of the pharmaceutical sales representative or sales and marketing team as a whole is to meet the doctor and engage with them with the brand promotion. That has been the main thing, and this is what we are not able to do effectively or in a conventional way in last 3 months. Though we are doing some here and there, but not able to do that. My question is that what is going to happen in months to come? What are the different challenges we are going to face in pharmaceutical industry? What you see?
First of all, thank you for this opportunity for being with Professor Kumar, a very distinguished person, and I'm sure his experience is much broader than mine. So I'm very focused on one area, that is pharmaceuticals, and I'm sure this I'll have opportunity of learning from him, and of course from very lot of the friends out here, co-professionals. So thank you for this opportunity. Before I go to a very specific part of the job, that is the pharma job, I think we may need to step back. And I understand that this is a crisis, but sometimes crisis always gives us an opportunity to reinvent ourselves. And so I'll talk of 2, 3 things, and maybe I'll use some of my one of the slides which I was using just to exemplify. But I'm sure each of us being in pharma, and some of us who know about pharma are aware about the kind of situation which we are in. And it is last 3 months more so. But there's a whole shift of the way the medical access, the information, the way the treatment is happening, particularly when we look at COVID situation, there's whole slowdown which happened in the pharma industry and many other industries. So if you look at from that particular perspective, I was looking at the pharma scenario more in 3 stages. And let me try to first share that with you so that I can help myself. So if I look at pharma, and I'm coming to the specific answer of how is the life of a pharma professional changing. When in somewhere in February, when COVID struck us, January, February, uh, the whole of the pharma industry first went into crisis response. Initially, I think if you look at it, safety, keeping people safe, ensuring that each of our employees safe, ensuring each medical representative safe, ensuring doctor is safe, patient is safe, and everything remaining safe was a key concern. Then came the business continuity. That while we are remaining safe, can we see how do we support our doctors, how do we support patient, what can we do, how do we send information? Different technologies and techniques were tried. And in all this, there was a whole focus of how do we retain the customer connect, how do we provide information, how do we ensure the supply chain functions effectively, how do we support the retail chemists and distributors in getting whatever they will need to get. So that was second piece which was happening in the retain mode. The third piece which was happening in the retain mode, because many of my sales professionals were in their houses, I saw that many companies, including us, did different kind of things to ensure that they are not only engaged, but also there is a refresher of training and courseware and other things which got employed. Either for individual contributors, there was something to do individually, and for managers, there were manager courses. Uh, and not very important for the sales professionals, if that's a specific question, but there's a huge amount of work which actually was happening with pharma manufacturing across the India. Pharma manufacturing really rose up to the occasion across India, barring some particular places where they had geographical or demographic challenges. But name a pharma company and they tried their best to ensure that the products they manufacture are supplied in the market. A huge amount of disruption supply. So that was the one phase. The second phase then, which when we saw in last 1.5 months, or which is happening now, is a recalibration phase. Gradually, people are going back to work. The manufacturing kept on, but it was not at the 100% capacity. It was at 25, 30%. And now it is coming to around 70, 75, 80%. So confidence started building in. People started seeing access to the COVID treatment center. There was some amount of detection. Government worked very well, all of that. In all this, there was a new SOP, a new ways and means of working which came. How do you work in a green zone versus how do you work in orange zone and yellow zone? And then government knocked off all that zone and came with a containment zone. So people and companies and organizations kept adapting to this new ways of working, either physically or in different methods. And that's why there's a whole new balance of work from home, work from office. In pharma sales professional, 3 months back, if anybody would have said that I'm going to work from my home, I'm sure that sales organization would have blown off its top. But luckily and miraculous and very nicely, the whole of the pharma industry adapted and adjusted very well to see to it that the sales rep and the managers and everybody else were working from their home, trying to keep best space possible to maintain the supply chain or provide some information with the doctor, or if not anything, to study for themselves and enrich their own knowledge. And at this point of time, I think while we are speaking, because of this COVID experiences, many pharma companies have gone back to the drawing board. They are looking what is their strength, what has been their weakness, what are the opportunities, and what are the threats. And some smart companies have been able to identify sweet spots and start looking at how do I now start thinking about what can I do better. And that's the next phase, which is reinventing. I very nicely have framed one terminology called personal touch, PT versus VT. I think the whole profession of sales and marketing will have to differentiate between what is a personal touch and what is a virtual touch. And there will be new models of treatment and medical access which are going to come. There are a lot of sweet spot which we can capture. Like, for example, if you look at Swiggy. Swiggy, for example, went out of the business of delivering food. So they got into the business of buying stuff for you and getting back to your house because you are in a containment zone. Same way Dunzo. So in pharma also, there are a lot of other such practices which has happened with the chemists, retailers, stockists, and distributors all working together to provide access to the patients, including internet medicines. I will be seeing more of collaborative models, not only between supplementary products, but maybe competitive products. And that is what is the reinvention phase which we are talking. Manufacturing technology will change and the workforce deployment. So for me, if I have to answer your question that how is the world of pharma sales rep changing? In a short period, the world of pharma sales have changed, and it's very difficult because as of right now, when they go out in the field, they are not able to do the basic KPI, they are not able to do the call averages, they are not able to do many things. The marketers are under confusion because their marketing capabilities, their marketing practices based on a particular paradigm of access is not working. But maybe I'm jumping my question. Maybe I'm going forward. I think I see there's a huge opportunity. There's opportunity in adversity, and maybe we can talk about it later. But this is my little bit longer response to the question in terms of how the world of pharma is changing. I would say it is changing, and it is going to change much more. And there's huge opportunity, according to me, for many professionals to take benefit of this change and see what we can do.
True. Actually, people says that the pharma industry is very sluggish to adopt technology and change, but the kind of pace, the speed with which industry adopted technology in last 3 months so quickly is amazing. Is amazing. Every medical rep is connecting doctors through technology. So I agree. I think what you acknowledged. Mr. Ajay, that capacity of pharmaceutical industry to change earlier was not understood. Now we have demonstrated that. That's the great thing. Coming to Professor, what you see as an outsider who is looking at the different industry, different company, including pharmaceutical company, I see. So I have two questions for you simultaneously. Question number one is same what I asked Mr. Ajay. What change you see in the industry for pharmaceutical company in particular? And type question is that as we were talking about, uh, there is a change in the way we have been working in pharmaceutical industry, meeting, going, visiting hospital and clinic, and promoting our brand. And suddenly somebody did something we don't know what, and now we can't do the same thing. We have to adopt change very fast. So there is a mental sort of a dilemma in mind whether this will sustain the same thing, will resume. So how a typical in organization behavior point of view, how you see this challenge of sudden requirement of change, Professor?
Uh, Personally and professionally, I am not afraid of any change. I am worried if there is no change. Honestly, honestly. Now, when there is a change, let me explain. The people whom I could see with you here, you and Ajay ji, and people whom I can't see, something interesting I would like to tell you. Most of us must have seen the maximum number of changes in life, which people, younger generation, people below 25 years have not seen as many changes that we have seen. People who are elder to you have not seen the changes. Simple example. How many kinds of telephone instruments you have seen in your life? Think of. Just to connect to people. Now, your son or your younger brother might have seen a large number of mobile phones, but I'm talking about the number of telephones. You go to kitchen. When we were a young person, what was the cooking medium and what's the cooking medium now? In an average kitchen in India, you see 3 or 4 kinds of mediums. You have a gas stove, you have a microwave oven, you have a convection, and you have something else. So if there is no change, there is no life. In the absence of change, we say the society, organization, or the individual is dead. Okay. After saying this, I'll introduce one word called PPF. Every living organism, whether it is an industry, whether it is a society, whether it's a government, or whether it's an individual, either individually or as a society, they have past. So first P is past. Second P is present. The third one is F. PPF is not public provident fund for me. PPF is past, present, and future. Now, if I apply this PPF model to COVID, it's a lovely lesson for us on change management. Now, what is this lovely lesson? We were used to do certain things in a certain way in the past. Thanks to January 30th, this January, the day Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated, the first patient landed in Kerala, as per the document. After that, the world started changing. Our world started changing, and the world outside India got changed. Thanks to this, and we have got what is called the COVID and impact of COVID, what we are discussing. That means what gave you success earlier in the past will not give you success today during COVID, in any stage of COVID. Any stage, I'm not getting into 1.0, 2.0. I don't know how many numbers we're going to have. We might run short of the numbers in terms of versions. 4.0, 5.0, I do not know. So, nobody is sure at this stage how long this will continue in different hues and colors. So, we are talking about present situation. The third one is future. Now, if you look at it, what brought you success? First aspect, success of business, pharma business. Success of pharma business, according to me, is based on only three things. I'm staying focused on pharma, my understanding. Manufacture, movement of goods, and movement of people. Nothing else. How do you move your pharma representatives? And how do you move your pharmaceutical goods? Manufacture, movement, and how do your focused audience, your target, are not individual members of society, purely it's medical practitioners. Of course, you have institutional buying, I'm not getting into that. But if you look at it, success is one aspect we have to be concerned about. Second one is satisfaction, particularly when it involves manpower. As you said, a senior colleague in pharma industry or down the supply chain, one pharma representative. Two, the third important aspect, which is becoming more and more important now than what it was, is how can I keep people happy? So success, satisfaction, happiness, and the most important is peace. Can I be in peace? Can I stay in peace without getting panicky? So this P has a different meaning. Can I stay in peace? Right? If you're not in peace, you'll become pieces, as simple as this. You become a patient. And let's not get into patient engagement now. All of us are patients of COVID, directly or indirectly. Now, Ajayji talked about 3 R's. I'm going to talk about 6 R's. What they are. In a situation that is present, whatever has given you market leads will not give you now because situation is changed. When the situation changes, I have to change my substance and I have to change my style. What I do, how I do, has to be different when the situation changes. So during COVID, before COVID, and after COVID, situations have changed. I have to change. How do I do it? First, there is something called reflection. Instead of waiting for my boss to see how am I performing, can I analyze my own targets? Can I analyze my market paths? Can I analyze who are my customers, who are my target audience? So the first one is reflection. This is called Antah Parisilana or Antah Karan. Can I look into myself? It's kind of introspection. Second one is relate to other people. Can I relate to my colleagues who are in the same situation, who are facing the same problem? How are they handling it? It's possible. Third important thing is, can I change gears? Can I change my style and my substance? And what I call this as reorienting. I'll give you one simple example. You remain on the top of your performance when you learn continuously. The minute I stop learning, I think I'll start the downfall. When people tell me that I'm a learned professor, I tell them, please don't do that. Learned professor means I stop with learning. The minute I stop learning, I'm not a professor. I can't be a teacher if I fail to be a student. So reflect, relate, and reorient. The next one is resilience. Even though people talk about technology, whenever we have seen in the beginning of it, screen going blank, audio might go. Please remember, resilience is very important. What do I have to do when the technology fails? I have not failed. Technology might fail. And any technology that failed, I'm sure it pops up. It's a question of time. The next one is, he mentioned it, can I reinvent? Can I do the same thing in a slightly different way? It's like any musician in the world. He will play the same song, but he will not play the same song in the same way. Take it from me. It's like handicrafts. They look similar, but there's a slight difference. The last one is what is called regeneration. Can I regenerate myself? In difficult times, you have to keep your spirits up. I'll pause over here and I'll wait for any other question.
Thank you, Professor. You have given a prescription for us in industry to really sail through this change with resilience and peace of mind. So your R is looks very giving reprieve to us. I will come to Mr. Ajay. Uh, we have a comments from Shankar Das. Shankar Das is CEO of Coratio Healthcare India Limited. He's asking about the role of HR in this era, because whatever things right now happening is a tactical adopting the situation. But whether the by 2021, how the role of HR is going to change, corporate HR in any pharmaceutical company.
A very pertinent question in terms of what is the role of HR post-COVID, or how does HR, and as Professor has rightly said, how does HR help organization to successfully reinvent themselves during this particular transformation or change process? And so there are two kinds of change. One, where we as an organization drive forward a change, and two, where there's a burning bridge which is created, which throws everybody into a place, and from there you pick up and move forward. So COVID is something similar to the burning bridge kind of situation for many industries, not only HR. I think here is where the quality, the resilience, the innovativeness the organization shows is going to determine the success of those organizations. And in order to create that particular culture, in order to help the organization change the direction, is where HR has to play a role. I'll give you an example. When COVID started, and it's my personal example, I'll give maybe I'll share a lot of my personal example. When COVID started, nobody knew how to deal with it. It was not a storm coming in one particular territory. It was not a flood coming in one state. It was a global pandemic. And so for organizations like ours, which are a global organization, we were all of a sudden thrown from dealing across India, Europe, US, Asia, right from people safety issues, right from manufacturing challenges, right from supply chain, right? And how do you access your medical community? So starting from, and in each of this area, none of us, nor the managers, nor the technical leaders, nor any leader or the organizations had any training. There are some good organizations which does crisis management work and they plan and everything, but large part of organization believes that when crisis comes, we'll deal with it, and that also may be appropriate. And from my own example, we set up a very global crisis management team for Intas. We connected all leaders. We ensured that during this crisis, there were three objectives which we took care of. One, ensuring the people and site safety. Two, ensuring business continuity. And three, it was very important, which came thanks to my colleagues in the commercial and marketing, identifying potential sweet spots and start working on them, either for commercial requirements or corporate image. And my colleagues did fantastic in all these three. The role of HR was to get them together. I was holding the CMT, I was coordinating, there were gray areas we were identifying, with the continuity risk, we were looking at it proactively, leveraging people's collaboration, collective ability to identify this. So, to your point, the role of HR would continue to do the bread and butter. We'll have to continue focusing on talent development and on other piece. But simultaneously, I think in grayer times of like this, in crisis, the role of HR has to be first and foremost lead that change, own that change. HR leaders may need to agree and say that fine, I may not have all the answers because this is the first time it's happening for all of us. It's okay. And let's work together. Let's see what is the best answer. There may not be any answer. There have been times where what we did earlier, last year, same thing came back as a proposal. And last year we had thrown it out, but this says, no, I think it makes sense, let's put it. So lot of ideas which we had discarded got reapplied. And to me, that's where the HR comes in. And Shankar, to me, the role of HR, apart from doing the bread and butter, that is the talent development, the payroll and compliance and everything else, and keeping is ensuring to start looking at how do I support my organization to identify what else is coming around the bend, how do I help my leader to be more, to look forward and look around the bend more possibly. And if it comes, then how do I help them to deal with that in terms of developing those capabilities and keeping the organization at a steadfast level while all this turbulence is happening.
Interesting. Professor Ravi Kumar, I would like to extend the same questions to you also. What use?
Can you see me or I'm still blank?
I can see you. I can see Ajay Bhaiya.
All right. Okay.
Go ahead. Pranav, please go ahead, sir.
So I'm asking the same question if comes to you, that in this current scenario, what's the additional role, not only HR, but I would be asking you, corporate leaders should play, looking at the sentiment of the frontline sales marketing or all overall employee, because last session we got a feedback from the participant that there are companies who are doing layoff. So there is a fear among the people who are still working in the company, always for a layoff in this situation, right? So what's the larger role the corporate leadership should play proactively in this situation?
Thank you. Challenging question in the challenging times. Let me make an attempt. See, the corporate leadership can delegate perhaps many things. Let me explain. Marketing can be delegated to somebody. Finance can be delegated to somebody. You can have a second line to look after. Strategy. But if the top management starts delegating HR, I'm concerned about that organization. Well, what do you mean by HR? HR is like lady at home. Everything starts there and everything stops there. I remember Anu Agaji in Pune, we coined a word HR, means heat recovery. When everything goes well, HR will never get a credit. Take it from me. It's just like a lady at home, mother at home. Quite common in every family, if the son does well, the father says, my son. The son does not do well, the father says to his wife, your son. So HR means heat recovery, first part. Now what is the challenge now for the HR? Very, very simple and straight. Every employee starting from the top management should feel that HR, my Huna. I'm there. I'm an absorber for you. Don't lose your heart. Don't get panicky. Together we can. Together we can. We are here to handhold. The only difference that is because of COVID and subsequently, what we were doing physically, we may not be able to do, we have to do digital. Long ago, somebody asked me, what is digital? I told him something that is not physical is digital, as simple as that. If I get physical, it's not digital. If I don't want to get physical, I resort to digital. This is one. Now, the biggest challenge now is, how do you help colleagues, people who are in the field, how do you help them to link? Feeling of loneliness is very painful than when you're alone. I may be alone, but I do not feel alone. Please understand. So, in a situation which is pandemic who is going on, how do I link to my organization? How do I link to my colleagues in the field? And how do I link to my target audience? That's one. Second one is, how do I learn? People are talking about herd immunity and all that. I would like to tell you something. I'm very proud of my colleagues in India. Why am I saying this is, say about 15 years ago, we started, particularly in HR, how do you manage what is called a globally distributed workforce? Ajay, I don't know whether I'm touching an old nerve in you. Globally distributed workforce. I can't meet them. I can't see them. Meeting is expensive. I have to travel. If I travel, who will look after my headquarters? Who will look after Taiwan? Who will look after China? I mean, I can't be Lord Krishna. I cannot be simultaneously be present. Even if I do a holographic presentation, I have limitations. Fine. We managed. It's the Indian talent that did extremely well on globally distributed workforce. From globally distributed, let's come to locally distributed. As simple as this. The contours have changed. Earlier, it's globally distributed. It is within India or even outside India. One. We have a tremendous amount of capability to learn, to unlearn, and to relearn. Imagine ISO certifications. How many iterations it has gone? Every respectable organization has changed its own processes and got a new certification. You talk about GST, how it was announced, what changes have been brought, and how fast we adapted. So, capacity to adapt is one of the best things as a strategy to manage change. And Indians are abundant. What perhaps they need is, as I told you, Maimuna. I think HR's job is to communicate to the management, to the colleagues, and to your field level people, and to your most important aspect of your medical doctors. If you don't see a doctor, if you don't meet a doctor, doesn't mean that you can't stay connected. You can send him an SMS. You can send an emocom. You can send an audio text. You can send an audio file. Say that I just called to say that I love you. I'm sure it will add a great impact. You know, leadership is simply in the entire chain. Leadership is nothing but, can I make a person, other person, can I make feel good? I can do this only when I feel good. But unfortunately for most of us, leadership is, how can I keep myself feel good? No, I have to feel good, then I have to make others feel good. Thank you, Pranav.
Thank you, Professor. Mr. Ajay, this question is to you, looking at the, this is actually the questions from the sales and marketing team, looking at the current scenario. What is anticipated is that in next years to come, maybe 2-3 years also, maybe more, we don't know, the situation remain the same. Medical reps will not be allowed freely to enter in the clinics or doctors, and hospital remain the hub for COVID-19 infection. Even they allow, many people may not like to go there, including our medical reps. And the kind of job being done digitally connecting, we don't need the geographically distributed field force. What we need, a few handful of digitally savvy people who can connect digitally, sitting in head office to doctors, chemists across the country or across the globe even. In that case, do you see the possibilities or a need for restructuring the entire organizational structure? I'm meaning here sales and marketing organizational structure.
Well, what you're asking has been going around in the industry, okay? And it's a very general question. I have a different view, and let me possibly speak about my view first. to challenge this thought process. I'll take something from history, but I'll talk about it. First and foremost, I think this is an opportunity for us in pharma industry to start thinking about the title itself of medical representative. That's the first part. See, why are we not saying that my employee is equal as a healthcare professional, a nurse, a ward boy, a physiotherapist? Correct. All these people are termed as healthcare professionals, and they are maybe graduate, diploma, or what's it, apart from the doctor, of course. Okay. Why are we telling our employee who is bringing science in whatever form or manner to the doctor as an information or education or whatever we call it in different forms or manner? There are different ways of doing it. As an industry, I think we need to start first in changing our own mindset that my colleague is a healthcare professional, not a sales representative. That's the first part. Right. So that is where I think the mindset has to change. The second is a skill set. If we are talking of a new set of skills which we need to have, which is a combination of a personal touch and virtual touch, and the ability to decide which one I need to say, as the professor said, where I need to send an emoji or where I need to go and say hello, what I need to send an emoji and what do I do when I say hello and what kind of communication I do. I think that balance is going to be reworked. Third part, the KPIs of pharma sales force management, call averages, coverages, route map, taxi tour, I think they are gone. I mean, all of a sudden it has vanished. We'll have to get down to the black drawing board again and say, what makes sense to my customer? Correct. And that's where if we start treating our own colleague as professionals and support them to identify what matters to their customer, I think that's the first beginning. So many years back, when a lot of private companies went into insurance, everybody believed that the job of people who sell insurance policies is gone. But now, if you look at the whole insurance sector, yes, they are not going from street to door to door. But look at the compensation level for those particular people who are insurance agents for LIC today in some of the big industries. They are sitting behind a desk, they are looking at a lot of analytics, they are doing the job in a different manner. The methodology will be changing, but there will be something which will be there, which is really inherent. We'll have to apply it in a new setting. And that's an opportunity to me for pharma industries, and pharma industry need to wake up to it. If we keep on thinking about the job going on, then medical rep will be replaced and I can do the digital technology. So I'm going to take the feet off the street and make them into, I'll reduce my field force. I'll save my some money. What are we talking about? We are talking about 25 to 30% of your total COGS of the total COGS of around 25-30%. You're talking about 9 or 10%. This is going to be a saving. Either you save that money or you use those particular to redeploy your resources and do something better about it. There is going to be a turbulence, there is going to be a transition, but unless we in pharma do not start thinking about it, we'll keep on discussing the same thing. Oh, medical representative cannot go to the doctor, doctor will not come, doctor will tell him get out, so what is he going to do? And we'll speak of this for next 6 months to 1 year. And that's not going to help us, not going to help the doctor, not going to help the patient. So my view is that instead of lamenting about it, I think we better get up and do something about it. And this is an opportunity to take it in your hand, seize it and change. This is a God-given opportunity once in a lifetime for a pharma industry to change. Either we change or we'll perish. That's the difference. That's the way I look at it. But Professor is smiling, and I'm sure he has a lot of follow-up wisdom words on this one. So Professor, all yours.
I'm with you because I firmly believe when a door gets closed, 2 more doors gets opened. If I lose one customer, the market was open, more than one customer. That has been. I am smiling at because Ajay is just, I think he's having some paranormal capabilities. He's talking about insurance. You will be surprised. Earlier, there was insurance only for life in India. Then you came a general insurance. Now, in general insurance, for example, I have a very large insurance, death due to accident. I never fly without buying an airline insurance. I never fly. In addition to this, I'm sitting here, the fan might fall on my head. My house might haven't been insured. Of course, it's insured. But I'm insured for my life, death due to accident. Now, I'm told by my friends in insurance, a new business is going to open up worldwide. It is called marriage insurance. Can I insure my marriage? Somebody told me one model has insured her upper body for 15 million sterling pounds. So, first. Second thing is, I liked what Ajayji has said. I think we have to change the width of the brush that we are using. Like government has recently done, they have expanded the scope of what is called micro, small and medium enterprises.
Right.
50 crores has become 100 crores. Now it will have its own impact.
Yeah.
When we say expanding horizons, expanding markets, to me, it is it. I picked up a thread from Ajayji and I'm building it on further quickly. I think all people have to come under what is called a healthcare team. If there is no pharmaceutical formulations, what healthcare you can give? Tell me. If nobody manufactures a medicine, how would I get a medicine? I mean, you can't go back to 1940s that there's a compounder who will do mixture and all that. Scales have changed. Third important thing, can a doctor survive today? A medical doctor, do you think his job is over by giving a prescription? He has to tell the way the medicine is available. Sorry. So I liked what you said. I think pharma industry, hospitals, medical profession, all of you come under a healthcare team. Team is a place where there is a mutual trust.
Yeah.
And there is a mutual respect. Please understand, your industry has undergone transformational changes. Earlier, pharma industry was bothered about a doctor only to a so-called medical representative. Pranav, you know this better than me. I don't have to tell you. Your continuing medical education, your continuing personal education is what? You're giving value add to the doctor. You are buying him in, not financially. Financially is banned, you know that. You buy a medical doctor so that he feels good about your brand and he sees trust in you. As simple as this. So in my opinion, a fear that I lose my job. Yes, you might lose your present job in a present form. I'll ask you a simple question. If you have to choose somebody who will help HR analytics in your organization, right? What will you do? You might recruit a very young guy from IIT who has done analytics. But you identify one of your boys who knows the domain specificity, the context specificity, and put that guy. You are not anymore going to Apollo Hospital or Workout Hospital to work with this guy. What has happened in the banking industry? Even today, you'll be surprised, a large number of banks that have invested into technology. The head of IT operations is not an Bombay IIT or a triple ITB engineer. He is an agricultural extension man sitting as a chief general manager. He has not learned technology in a traditional way. So for me, a practicing manager is like SP Balasubramanian, who never learned music, right? He still wants to learn music in a non-traditional way. So I think HR is a very large role to play, right? My request for all my friends in the pharma industry is, if you do business the way you do business, you have done business yesterday, you will be out of business. Now, how will you do the business today will decide whether you will be in business tomorrow. As simple as that. So it is your roadmap. You have a Google map. You define your destination. The technology has automatically identified where you are. It will give you a map. But mind you, Google Map will not take you. You have to go. Right? And Google Map also shows you a road. It never asks you what is the width of your car. You get into traffic jams if you blindly follow technology. You have what is called corporate-based experience. I remember a very interesting experience I had in one of the star hospitals. I saw a pharmaceutical representative sitting next to me. And I asked him, I'm told that I can see the doctor only after you. You know what this guy told me? That that is doctor's nicety, but my culture is I'll wait till he sees the last patient. He's a great pharma guy. You know why? If he goes after me, he has all the time. If he goes before me, doctor might say, patient is waiting, can you do it briefly? He's a smart guy. I hope I conveyed my point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, both of you are given a lot of positivity in this situation. Actually, the kind of positivity you both and Mr. Ajay you talked about. I was reading comments from Vivek again. Professor Vivek was putting that the HR is nothing but a glorified personal administration team, and I think this time also is good for those thought process among the HR. This is the opportunity for HR also to really contribute to the business, to the organizations, to provide the kind of right ambience, right structure, right training and development to the team to re-equip what just now Professor Ravi Kumar also said about that. Instead of recruiting a new guy, what if you can really identify, map the talent, the skill, the orientation of the existing team and redeploy them in different function. So that was the good thing to hear. We are exhausted the time, but I would love to have a quick final recommendation for the sales and marketing professionals here. Largely is in this call. Of course, there are medical affairs and other people. From both of you, a quick prescription for them for their professional development at this stage and after that. Starting with
Sure.
Mr. Jay.
Okay. So I don't have prescriptions. I'm still, but I can tell you something from the way I got an experience, and including the experience of recently working very closely with Inta's leadership team managing this crisis and leading the crisis. I would say three things for us, and it's not for HR, it's for every pharma professional. One, seize this opportunity. Take charge of the opportunity. Don't let it go. Every organization will have a difference in terms of the way you are approaching geography, customer, therapy, access, technology, investment. I understand. But it's your turn now to seize this opportunity and to make that change. If you don't take this, the industry or some other competitor is going to take it. The choice is yours, whether you want to do it or whether you want to let the competitors do it. So that's one. Second, as a leader, there's a one skill which you will have to pick up, and it's emerging very, very fast. I'm not saying drop any other leadership skills which you have, keep it, but be a collaborator. I think the new emergence is not of leaders who are experts at everything or who knows all answers or who knows all solutions. The new leader is a leader who knows what he does not know, doesn't feel shy of it, expresses vulnerability. Okay, I don't know. And when I was leading the CMD, there were many things in technical terms. I mean, I didn't know what is the weight of a cargo of a air pallet which is going to happen. I mean, how do I know? I don't know. And then I have to tell my supply chain, the other guy, so wait, let me ask the supply chain person and then we connect. So be comfortable of not knowing and be vulnerable to and express your vulnerability. And most important is, with all this, be a connector. Know who knows the answer, get two people connected. That is what HR can do. Because I know in supply chain, if this is a problem, which other function has got this capability, who is that person who knows analytics, rather than going and trying to find an analytics professor outside. I know that guy sitting there, he knows, he's good at Excel, he knows how to build the macros, maybe I can put him here. So that, I'm giving a very small example, but as an organization point of view, you also become a connector of different people, different internally in the organization, externally. I was liaising with the government of Gujarat. I was liaising with the IPA body. which is not an HR role, but I did it because we need to be connectors. And many of my colleagues did a lot of other connecting things. My manufacturing head became the head of safety and he was talking to the safety. So be a good connector, get people connected and work as a leader connector. Third, most important, be calm. Not knowing is okay, as I said. Being a leader who's vulnerable is fine. And at this point of time, when things are going to go south, not all things are not going to be happening in the way you or the organization wants. As leader, our job is to buffer rest of the organization from the shocks. The environment in the organization, sales not happening, 60%, I saw that was a concern. Now that is a concern. Pharma industry went from 9.4% growth to this month prediction is 0.9%. That is a concern. Now, either as a leader, we start throwing up our hands and pass the pressure down the line and say, come hell or high, get me the sales. Or we help them say, okay, fine, let's see how I'm going to help you to build the sales in the next 6 months. Now, that is where the leader comes in terms of being calm, becoming that buffer, and helping the organization to remain steadfast in the course it is charted. I would suggest there are 3 things as what from my experience. It's not a prescription. Somebody may say I am wrong and stupid. I'm fine with that also because this is what I'm learning. Thank you very much.
Professor?
What Ajay said, I'll market it.
Thank you, sir.
He manufactured, I'll market it. As simple as this. First one is smile. Or you might ask me a question, you wear a mask. How would anybody would know your smile? Try this. Wear a mask, stand in front of a mirror or take a selfie video. When you smile, your pupil dilates.
Yeah.
There is a more flow of aquatic fluid into your eyes. There is a sparkle.
Right.
It will reach like a Wi-Fi signal. Don't bother. It is not a physical signal. So first thing is smile. Smile is the greatest assurance to the others. I told you, my huna. One.
Right.
Second thing is silence. When we use technology, your point of contact might have not changed, but the way you approach the contact has changed. You have the doctor, earlier you're reaching him physically, now you can reach him in other means. So point of contact is not changed. The medium of contact is changed, so you're not lost the contact. So there's nothing to lose. So silence is very, very, very important. The third one is from top to bottom, particularly to the people who are in the field. I think they need lots of support, which I use this as a hand holding. If I know that I am not alone, what is the strength of a defense personnel who stands at LOG? He feels 130 crores of people are ready to chase the enemy in case I die. As simple as that. If we can give this kind of support, I'm sure we can handle anything. My last point is whether it goes or not, whether COVID-19 disappears or not, use this as a fantastic learning opportunity. Can I learn how to be different? If I want to be different, I can be different. I can be different only when I see a difference. I always say that if I don't see a difference, I can never make a difference. Hence, I'll be out of business. I don't want any one of you to be out of the business. I want you to be in better business. Thank you.
I feel very, very positive and happy listening both of you, and I believe my participants also feeling so. Looking at the feedback, like Devdutt Datta just put excellent session. I think you have both of you have inspired the people here. Thank you very much, Professor Ravi Kumar and Mr. Ajay Bhatt, for joining this conversation live after lockdown. Hope many of the professionals going through this video will get inspired through it. Thank you very much. With this, we are closing the sessions today. Thank you, both of you.
Thank you. I can't shake hands, but I can smile.
Namaste.
You can say namaste with a smile. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye now.